Donald Trump is a white supremacist who has a Project 2025 agenda that wants to implement that. And anyone who voted for those policies need to be clearly counted on that.
I mean, can I just point out that white people actually voted for Trump at a lower clip than they voted for him in 2020? More tears. More. I require more tears.
All right, let's talk about something that's causing a complete meltdown on the left lately.
I'm sorry. No! Why? Why? Do you really hate me that bad?
And now we get to sit back and watch these nut jobs realize their Project 2025 worries and insistence that Donald Trump will not only take our freedoms, but leave behind a Blu-ray copy of Joker 2 that we will be forced to watch daily.
And no, I'm not talking about the weather or some new TikTok trend. I'm talking about the kind of meltdown you can almost feel through your screen.
They've been screaming about the falling sky, and now they'll just stare up at the clouds wondering why things are so quiet and peaceful. Well, until they hear this resonating from the nearby parking lot.
Here's the thing, anytime there's optimism on the right, you can practically see the panic button being hit on the left. And hey, I get it. If you've been convinced for years that someone like Donald Trump in office means the end of the world, I can understand the fear, but here's where it gets interesting. The panic and outrage we're seeing isn't just coming from regular folks who may have genuine concerns. It's coming from people who should know better.
Tell me what you're thinking.
Well, I'm so proud. I'm so proud of her. I don't think people realize how hard it is to get to where she was.
And honestly, it's these so-called elites that are driving the divisive narrative that's out of touch with reality. The people we're poking fun at here aren't just your everyday citizens who might have a different opinion. We're talking about the people at the top, the influencers, the celebrities, the high-profile commentators who keep telling everyone that a Trump presidency will mean the rise of dictatorship.
When they say that this is going to be when they say that it's going to be brown shirts, when they say it's the end of America, none of that is true, and they know it's not true. And you can tell they know that it's not true. Those people, I don't even think that it's okay to laugh at. I think it's a duty to laugh at them.
But they keep shouting the same tired warnings over and over. So yeah, maybe it's time to laugh a little and point out the absurdity of it all. Because when you're deliberately feeding people misinformation, trying to manipulate their emotions, maybe you deserve to be called out and laughed at while you double down. Let's take a look at some of the top contenders in this race to the bottom. First up, Joy Reid. Now, if there's one thing Joy Reid is not bringing to the table, it's actual joy. She's recently blamed Latino voters, especially men, for Trump's success with the Latino demographic. According to some exit polls, Trump actually managed to snag around 46% of the Latino vote. Instead of seeing this as, you know, an indicator that maybe there's something there worth listening to, Joy Reid just lashes out, saying these Latino men basically don't know what's best for them.
Also Latino men who, despite the utter disrespect shown by Trump and his promise to deport some of your mixed status families, most of them voted in a 55% majority to make the deportations happen.
She claims they're voting against their own families, against their own communities, almost as if they're committing some kind of betrayal. Her take? She says they've somehow aligned themselves with the likes of white supremacists, completely dismissing the real reasons they might have voted for Trump.
Y'all voted with Stephen Miller and David Duke and against your own sisters and chose Kamala Harris with 60% of their votes. So you own everything that happens to your mixed status families and to your wives, sisters, and abuelas from here on in.
Maybe, just maybe, it has something to do with issues that actually matter to them, like, I don't know, border security and community safety.
Just keep going with this. Seriously, just keep going with this. Really, keep doubling down on this, Joy Reid. I really love it. More identity politics, more blaming Americans.
And Joy's not alone in this crusade. Joining her is Sonny Hostin, who also took a swing at Latino men, calling them and implying that's the reason they didn't vote for the left's ticket. Think about that for a second. Instead of even entertaining the idea that these voters might have legitimate concerns, the narrative is that they're somehow betraying their own communities or that they're stuck in outdated mindsets. It's not only an insulting approach, but it's also wildly out of touch.
Latinos in Texas, a district that's 97% Latino, went 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
It's on the border.
It's
the border
misogyny.
crisis is on their doorstep. And they were begging people to care about it for years. We need to take some lessons.
That's what that was.
The lessons are not misogyny.
Knock. Who's there? Oh my gosh, it's Whoopi.
Oh my goodness, these folks. So, oh, wow.
Then you have people like former DNC Vice Chair Michael Blake, who chimes in to say that Americans are just plain racist.
Former Vice Chair of the DNC agrees. This is Michael Blake saying that Americans are racist. Just keep doing this, please. More. Pour it on. Keep calling Americans racist. Keep calling Latino men. Please do it. Keep just yelling at the American people about how terrible they are for not having elected this absolute nothing burger of a candidate on a terrible agenda that Americans hate. Please keep telling Americans how they're the worst people ever. That's a way to victory. Do it. Do it.
He even goes on about how there's this fear of a Black and South Asian woman in the White House, as if that explains everything.
Democrats, we have to be very clear of calling them on who they is. Donald Trump is a white supremacist who has a Project 2025 agenda that wants to implement that. And anyone who voted for those policies need to be clearly counted on that. When you see what happened on Tuesday, it was people, in particular, white men and white women, who unfortunately decided to not vote for the vice president, yet they elected Black women in the Supreme Court in Michigan, yet we had victories in Ruben Gallegos going in Arizona, yet we had victories in North Carolina. It was the fear of a Black and South Asian woman that we have to speak about. And if we're not clear about race, gender, and class, we are ignoring the truth of what's happening in the country right now.
But here's a fun fact. White people actually voted for Trump at a slightly lower rate than they did in 2020.
I mean, can I just point out that white people actually voted for Trump at a lower clip than they voted for him in 2020? That's actually what happened. The only constituency where Trump actually lost ground, he lost 1 point with white voters in 2024. And then he blew her out. Why? Because a bunch of people who weren't supposed to vote for him voted for him.
So maybe instead of focusing so hard on identity politics, the left could actually listen to the reasons people are switching sides. Meanwhile, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has jumped on this blame train, claiming and racism are to blame for Kamala Harris's struggles. She shares her own experiences with being in the public eye, explaining how shocking it was for her to realize just how ingrained misogyny is in America.
The fact of the matter is, you know, this race may not have been decided by any one individual factor, but misogyny is very, very real in this country. As another widely known woman of color in office, you know, I knew that sexism and racism were real, but it was not until I got subjected to a national stage that I actually was shocked at how bad it is. You know, you grow up with it, but there is something about being on the receiving line or just nationally exposed to millions of eyeballs at once that you feel that fire hose and you actually understand how deeply ingrained it is. And it is not partisan. It is it transcends.
And I get it. No one's denying that exists or that anyone in the public spotlight doesn't get their fair share of hate, but to make it the entire reason for political failures.
More tears. More. I require more tears.
It's a simplistic, lazy answer that ignores the real political and economic concerns that people have. People aren't necessarily voting against Kamala because they're sexist. They might just disagree with her policies. Then there's the identity politics debate. New York Times columnist Tressie McMillan Cottom thinks Democrats should actually lean more into identity politics.
I have some more tears for you. How about Professor and New York Times columnist Tressie McMillan Cottom urging Dems to double down on identity politics, like on Comedy Central, because it's been working so well. They need more of it. Please be my guest. Please keep going. Please.
She argues that identity is a core part of every voter, and therefore, appealing to these identities directly is the way to go.
As Donald Trump has proven, what he has proven and the way he has won has proven is that every voter has an identity. Every voter has an identity, and he tapped into one of the most powerful of American identities. He tapped into white identity. Right? And he said, you don't need to be ashamed of this identity. I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to make you feel good about it, and you don't have to sacrifice a thing. Donald Trump played identity politics like a fiddle. So when you say that the Democrats lose because we play identity politics, it simply isn't true. This is about whose identities win when you appeal to them. That means you should double down on the identities of your base.
Oh, please keep doing this.
But here's the irony. When people say Trump ran on identity politics, that's actually the opposite of what he did.
By the way, Trump did not run on identity politics. He ran on the reverse. You guys ran on the idea that everybody's a member of a race or a class. Donald Trump ran on the idea that everybody wants American opportunity and you should leave us the hell alone. That's what he ran on. But again, I keep keep going down this rabbit hole, please. It'll be great. I think that'll be excellent.
And here's the thing, people are tired of being told what they should believe or who they should support based on their gender or skin color. They're tired of the blame games and the lectures. They're fed up with being called names just because they disagree. People want to make their own decisions based on issues that matter to them, not because of the labels or categories others try to fit them into. There's a serious backlash happening here, and it's one that could easily be avoided if these elites just tuned into the issues that are actually affecting people's daily lives. Instead, the message is loud and clear. If you don't fall in line, you're ignorant, racist, or worse. And frankly, doubling down on this kind of thinking isn't just tone deaf, it's self-sabotage. And while all of this unfolds, let's not forget the rising crime rates, the economy that's making it harder to make ends meet, and the general sense of unease in so many communities. Instead of talking about how to fix these issues, what's the response from certain figures? They're telling Americans they're the problem. Now, does that seem like a winning strategy to you? Probably not. So yeah, keep going down this road, keep pushing the narrative that Americans are the problem. Let's see where that gets you, because if there's one thing that's clear, it's that voters are paying attention and they're not buying it anymore. They're looking for leaders who will actually listen, not just preach. And hey, if you're tired of the mainstream media spinning the same tired stories, join us here and get the real scoop. We're cutting through the noise and delivering the truth without the condescension. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and let us know in the comments. Do you think doubling down on identity politics is helping or hurting? We're here for your thoughts, so drop them below.